Welcome to Brand You,
the ultimate personal branding podcast.
I'm Kaz Grant.
And I'm Toby Lee.
Together, we're here to help demystify personal branding
and to make it accessible and effective for everyone.
Follow along as we guide you through creating your own personal branding journeys.
So, let's get started.
Let's brand you. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 1 of our podcast that we have aptly named Brand You. So this podcast is all about personal branding. So we're going to dive into this subject in lots more juicy details with you all. But first, why are we talking about personal branding? Toby, what's your background?
Obviously, as a photographer, it's something that I'm helping people with, helping them build their personal brands. And photography and business portraits is all about making that best first impressions. It's about working out how is it you want to be portrayed and represented in the business world, or however you're using your personal brand, and giving them the tools to do that.
Yeah, sure. So what made you get into that, first of all? Like what?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So I went to drama schools, trained to be an actor. And it was through that process that I learned what a headshot was, which for an actor it's literally your shop window. It's your kind of your business card. You've got one photo that you take to auditions, or that your agent uses to put you forward for auditions, and that's got to tell the casting directors and the world what parts you want to play and can play. So it might be a good guy, it might be the bad guy, it might be some very heavy character, or something really light-hearted, and you've got to make sure that photo shows that you can do that to get you in that room for that audition. So moving to Lincoln and setting up a studio here, I've transitioned more towards like business branding and personal branding, but still use all those same skills of, in a photo, what is it that we can say by the choices we make on lighting and clothes we wear, which are all things we're going to get into in this series, and how that affects how you're kind of represented. So that's how I kind of came to be here.
I love that. And I've got some of your photos actually, and we've played around with it in the session as well, haven't we? With like different facial expressions and different like angles and stuff like that. And it's amazing actually how much you can portray via different means like that. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking forward to kind of unpicking more of that really for the listeners. And what about you, Kaz? Like, how have you got into this?
So we've just started a personal branding agency called Quirk. So we are helping people to personally brand and get themselves out there, because in 2024 and beyond, you need a presence. Otherwise, you're invisible to the world. And invisibility breeds no opportunities. So you need to be putting yourself out there. So yeah, I'm helping people to do that as well. So it's interesting. We make a good partnership in this, don't we?
I think so. We agree on a lot of things, don't we?
Yeah.
And how did you come to be involved with Quirk? How did that all come about?
Yeah, sure. So it was because I started personally branding years and years ago. So I started, I was ex-military, left the military, didn't know what I was going to go into, found a fundraising role with a children's charity. With that, I had to start putting myself out there to get people to know that I was looking for money for the charity. So I started originally with networking, going to in-person events in the local area. And then I started with a network marketing company as well. And I had to share products with the world. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this in person. Sure. So I went online and I started building, I didn't know it was called a personal brand back then, but I started building my own personal brand. And from that, Quirk has come along as an opportunity because of that work that I started to put in on my personal brand years and years and years ago. So yeah, it's incredible.
So that's kind of helped you be recognised for more than just the actual thing that you were, I was going to say selling, but obviously with charity work it's not selling, but the reason you're trying to make these connections with people, you're having a bigger effect.
Yeah, it's to get something, isn't it? We're putting ourselves out there to effectively be more well known and to get something maybe in return. And that might not be I don't mean like instantly selling and getting something straight away, but it's a connection with someone that might lead to something down the road. It's that connection that might tie you into a future job or a future workplace, or you might talk to somebody who can fix something for you. Yeah. It's all those connections, isn't it? And personal branding, I think, helps you make those connections and be more well known. Yeah.
So if we were trying to put a definition on personal brand, because I think it's one of these terms that certainly nowadays, is thrown out everywhere. People know they need to be aware of what of building their personal brand, but like, what is it? What are we actually talking about here?
In my opinion, I think it's just your reputation. It's who you are, it's your persona and your reputation that you want to share with the world.
Yeah.
Why do you want people to know you? What can you offer the world? And it's putting that out there to either attract people to you or to make those connections with the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd kind of throw in there from a visual point of view, because I suppose what I do with headshots is you have a headshot photo, whether it be on LinkedIn or going for a job application, because you want to make that best first impression.
Yeah.
You want to kind of give an idea of what you might be to work with, what your values are, and we make all these judgments so fast, don't we, as a viewer when we're scrolling or whatever. And so I guess it's like building your personal brand is trying to be aware of what it is you're putting out, how you represent yourself, not just necessarily through photos you share, but also, any written content on LinkedIn posts and things like that, and being mindful of actually what it is you're sharing. But in doing so, we can then learn to actually utilize that and take that to the next level. If we know what we're putting out and the effect we're having, we can then start manipulating that to really engage the people we want to engage and work with.
And I think that's why it can be so confusing at first, because I think you instantly, when you think of personal branding, you instantly just think about sharing your life.
Yeah.
And sharing everything. And actually, it's like you don't have to share everything.
No.
You're sharing what you want to share with the world, but that gives the world an idea of who you are.
Yeah.
Why you don't have to be liked by everybody. You'll repel people along the way of sharing your personal brand, but why should people who will like you?
Sure. Yeah.
And then that will grow to trust. Then people will trust you more. And also it opens up that line of communication. The amount of times that people have spoken to me because they've seen me online and I put across a friendly approach to the world, they feel comfortable enough to come and speak to me in person from that. So it breaks down those barriers then when you finally get to meet people in person.
Yeah.
And again, you want to collaborate on something, you want to do something, they already feel like they know you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that's a really interesting experience, isn't it? Like, I've only noticed that recently when I start going to networking events, but people come up and say hello to me.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of thinking, I think we've met before, but I can't actually recall who they are or whatever. But actually we haven't. It's just the videos I'm putting out and not realizing who you actually reach when you do share yourself online. And that people feel comfortable enough to come up and say hello, because hopefully my photos and videos are accurate representation of who I am to actually meet. So therefore they feel confident to kind of, if you can break down that first barrier and open the door for someone to come say hello to you just by focusing on your personal branding, surely that's a real win to saving a lot of work in the long run.
Because how many people are put off by reaching out? How many people are put off by reaching out to people and don't reach out to them to buy their product, to work with them in the future, to collaborate with them, to do whatever, because they don't know them, they don't trust them, there's no connection there already. Break that barrier down. Get yourself out there, break it down, show who you are, and people will come to you. I literally got stopped in the street the other week. I was walking the dogs. And again, people say, don't put dogs on certain social media channels and things. Well, they're a part of my life and they're a big part of my life, so they're going on there. But she stopped me. There was a runner. She stopped running, said hello to me, realised that I didn't quite know who she was. And she said, I know you on LinkedIn and I definitely recognise you because of the dogs.
No way.
So I just wanted to stop and say, hi, I really like your content. Thanks for sharing. We should grab a coffee sometime.
There you go.
And it was like, you just don't know what that is then going to lead to in the future, even if that is just a wonderful friendship. Like, how awesome is that?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really cool.
Nice, that's awesome. So what can listeners expect from these episodes?
Sure. So we're going to be deep diving into the why of personal branding. So why should people in 2024 and beyond be putting themselves out there online? And we're going to dive into not just this in respect to entrepreneurs or business owners. We literally, and we share this value, we want to get personal branding out to the masses. We want everybody to be personal branding. And it's not very niche of us, but it actually would benefit so many people in so many different ways. So we want to make this accessible to all.
And it's something everyone can be in charge of, right? Like you're in charge of your own
Yeah,
Back to what you said earlier about being a reputation, isn't it?
yeah, yes. You can personally brand if you were a personal brand. You can do it all yourself. So yeah, empowering people to do that. And then we're also then going to dive into the hows of it. Because obviously, again, that subject of personal branding, it's confusing. There's lots of noise out there. How do you actually do it? Like, where do you start? What do you do to begin? What things do you need? How do you create it? Are there any tools out there? Are there anything that can help you? Should you be sharing more business messaging or more personal messaging? How can you blend them in? And all of those juicy topics that we'll be diving into as well.
Nice. Good stuff. And obviously, along the way, we want to encourage listeners to get involved. So by all means, any questions you have about personal branding, about how to do it, what your restrictions or fears or challenges might be, either get in touch with Kaz and I on LinkedIn or in the community so that we can answer those in these future episodes. Because at the end of the day, we want to make it as accessible to everyone as possible and try and just break down those kind of barriers and fears, right?
Yeah, and because we're in the industry, like there's things that we won't maybe think about from outside, maybe hesitations, maybe worries, send them in to us. Let's make this as interactive as we possibly can, because then we can answer your questions in these podcasts and give you what you need to get out there personal branding as well.
So join us on the next episode where we'll be discussing why personal branding is so important in 2024.
Keep following along, keep listening to these podcasts and follow us in the community so you can ask all of your personal branding questions and get the latest updates when the episodes hit. Here's to branding you.